Hey everybody, and thanks for watching Woodcrest Bonsai. And thanks for putting up with the incredibly loud banging and crashing in the background, because another neighbor is getting a new roof, and these guys are really making a lot of noise. So, there's nothing like a little ambient background noise while you're doing a bonsai video. So what do we have here? We have 5 Shohin, maybe even Mame. A couple of them are probably small enough to be considered Mame. Parrot's Beak. And sorry. And these have been in their pots for at least a year. And all of them, except for this guy here, lost all their leaves, basically. I mean, this one still has a couple on, but this one and the one in the back got totally denuded. And I'm pretty confident it was from the cold. We had a very below normal January, and in fact, it was almost 2.5 degrees below normal for the month. So, and that was punctuated by some 30 degree, not 30 degree, in the 30s. 30 degrees versus in the 30s is a whole different world. So I never got a freeze. But it got cold enough for these guys to say, you know, I don't think I like this. And so they dropped a lot of their leaves. But it's no big deal, because as we see, and I'm going to take each one of these trees individually, and we're going to study it. But as you can see, like on these 2 guys right here, they're popping like crazy all over the place. And so they're going to get their springtime trimming and also a repotting, because let me see if I can find one. I think it's this guy. Yeah, they root so aggressively that they just can send the roots right out of the drain hole. So they're all going to get a repotting. There's another one, a few. I've got some others that just, it's almost crazy how many roots have escaped from the drain hole. So who do we start with? How about we'll go from the smallest to the largest. So we're going to take that guy, and this guy, and this guy, and this guy, and we're going to work on this one right here. Okay, zoom in a little bit. Whoa! Hello! Okay. Maybe that was more than a little bit. And I also apologize for the leaves. I have trees that are still dropping leaves. Okay, so where are we going with this guy? Well, immediately we see that it moves from right to left, which with my trees is pretty rare, because I like them to move the other way. But we're going to do it as it is. So right now we have this leaf, this branch here that's shooting straight at us. So it's coming off quite a bit. And this is the first main branch. You know, first main branch, second main branch. Really ain't much of a back branch. So we're going to take this guy down to about there. And I'm cutting it like this. And I'm hoping that I get growth coming from the bottom that will then produce the first main branch. This is the apex, and then if that's the apex, we have very, very heavy branch back here, which I'm going to reduce tremendously. That was interesting. Woodcrest Bonsai's Flying Bonsai Show. Oh boy. who knows? Who knows? You know, and since I'm chopping this back to almost nothing, let's chop that one too. And that part of the apex right there doesn't look very alive, so we're going to take him to there. Sorry. You have to admit, that was rather interesting. Okay, should I? You know what I think I'm going to do? I think I'm going to style them all, cut them all back like this. And I am going to do some wiring. This one doesn't need any. And then I'm going to do the repotting. Because when I repot, I like my cafeteria tray. Put the old soil on the cafeteria tray and save it for later. Because bonsai soil is basically just all rocks. The stuff that flew out of this pot when I tried to cut that one limb, you know, it's just rocks. And when you dry it and resift it, you can use it again. So anyway, that's number one. Okay. Number two. I guess I can keep the... No, I think I'm going to have to zoom out a little bit. Come on, zoom out. Is that good? I guess that's good. Okay. So this is a classic informal upright. Nice movement up to the taper. First main branch here. Oh, what was on there? First main branch. I'm sorry. When that first one flew off, it was just put me in a mood. Okay, let's try not to do that again. Or maybe we could try it on all five of them. So I do have some growth right here, little baby branches just beginning, so we're going to cut to there. And then if this is, I don't really have the perfect first main branch. I like my first main branches to be at 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock. And this one is shooting from the back. However, there's a little tiny bit of growth right there that's actually pointing this way. So many times I will use a branch that's not necessarily in the perfect place, but you can still promote the new growth to put it in that place visually. I think I mentioned that in 1998 I went to see Kimura. And if you're not familiar with Kimura, he is called the Magician. Amazing, 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 amazing collection of bonsai. And he did 3 huge trees as the demonstrations. And one of them, he took a branch that was shooting straight from the back, and it was about this big around. And he just bent that sucker right into place. Boom. And visually, you could never tell. So that was quite an eye-opening experience. 1998, so many, many years ago. That does not look alive either. So I said I was going to wire some of these. Maybe not. So once again, but the structure is there, okay? We have the structure of a really nice little tree. Okay, who's the next? I said from smallest to largest. The other 3 are all pretty much exactly the same. Let's do this guy first. I think we need to zoom out even more. I'm sorry for my... Oh, yeah, that's some zooming out. Sorry for my total lack of production quality. So this tree has a whole bunch of branching. And it also has an apex that is also shooting straight at us. If we look at it here, I mean, it's just coming straight out. So it could probably use some wire. I like the movement in here. When we do that, this portion here is too long, so I'm going to cut him to there in the hopes that we get some movement going this way. We have a little bit of dead. I think I'm going to switch to my concave cutters. Got my first main branch pretty much right at 10 o'clock, but it's coming from a big stub, and I don't want that stub. So I'm going to get rid of the stub entirely, including this part of the branch that is attached to that stub. So get in there with our concave cutters and voila! Okay. Then I'm going to remove this. And then I have two parallel branches right here. I don't think I need this one. Shorten that, that'll be the back branch. And then our other main branch is doing exactly the same thing as the last tree. The branch itself, which is a little bit heavy, but for now we're just going to leave it, is actually moving back and then forward. But visually, you really don't notice that. You really don't see that. So I'm going to reduce this. And who knows, maybe I won't need to wire at all. I do want to wire this guy up like that. So I've got my wire over here. And I keep my wire in a big box, and the bottom fell out. For some unknown reason, I lost my 1.0 wire. It just disappeared into the ethers. And I have no idea where it went. So I guess the next bonsai convention I go to, I will be buying some 1.0. Anyway, a quickie wiring of that one branch. And you notice there's also, before I start, there's a bunch of little growth. There's tiny right here, there's tiny bit right here, tiny bit right here, and none of that belongs in the show. So we're just going to rub all of that off. At this point, when the growth is that tender, super easy to just basically take your finger. You know, I think I've started too low. And then just bring that baby up. I like to have my fingers on the place where I'm bending so that if it begins to break or snap, I can feel it. Oh yeah, much better, much better. And we've got all this little tiny growth and these guys grow so fast, and they elongate so quickly too. If you don't keep on them, that this tiny little bit of growth in another month can be 3 or 4 inches out. Just. And who knows, maybe I'll do one and just let it elongate like that. Typically when they begin to grow, you pinch them back to get the pads. Okay, here's another one. And I don't think I'm even going to mess with the zoom. Okay, we've got big scar back there. This one has some interesting roots. I kind of like the way the roots are exposed. And it's got a little bit, it's also kind of leaning this way too. Of course, we could change that if we bring this up as the apex and turn it into an informal upright. So there we go. We have a decision to make. Informal upright, slanting style. Take this one away, you've got a slanting tree. Take this one away, you've got an informal upright. And I'm leaning towards an informal upright, mainly because this branch is a little bit smaller than this, and usually if I have a choice, I take off the larger branch, because over time the larger branches can get out of proportion. And I have so many of these that, it doesn't really matter where I go with it. And then once again, some cut back. I think I'll cut this guy back to about there. And then I think I'll cut this guy to right there. And the apex is moving forward, but what I can do is I can cut it like that and then get some more growth to come back. So I like movement this way and this way. And then the rest of it, I think, just can all be shortened tremendously. And remember, this is Parrot's beak. They grow so fast. And the new growth elongates so much that you really can't cut it back too much because it's just going to explode with new growth. And if I left those guys long like that, and the new growth is going to start from out here and just whoosh. So this is a pretty cool tree. I kind of like the exposed roots. Oh. Okay, and then we have one more. This is the guy. Talk about exposed roots. Oops, I just dumped a bunch of bonsai soil. Okay, so this is another classic informal upright. Even though there's a massive scar right here, I'm still going to use this as the front. First main branch, second branch is a little weak, but it's still green. So we're going to cut first main branch way back. We're going to cut that branch way back. Going to cut the back branch. See, it's already got a bud right there, so that will come this way because it's going to follow the leaf. So when I cut to there, that little bud will follow the leaf out. Boy, that guy had a bunch of scars, but that's pretty much how you do it. And then cut to there and cut to there. And once again, I want this part to be promoted to fill in here. So I'm going to take that part away. And even though it's got that scar there, what's it doing with leaves? I could take them off. So there we go. There's another cute little tree. I like it. And it does have, oh, I forgot there's a nub right here. See, this was a major cutback right here too. So you can imagine, look how long this one is. And it's not even half the thickness of that. So when I cut this back, it was twice as long as here. So it was way up, 4 or 5 inches. So I'm going to take that guy off too. There we go. There we go. And now I'm going to switch gears and repot all these guys. I'm going to repot them in the order that I styled them. So the littlest guy first. Typically, if I'm not mistaken, it's going to have window mesh to cover the drain hole, and it does. And for these little guys, window mesh works just fine. And we had some rain, so this soil is all wet, but it's not that big of a deal. Some very nice roots. And I'm going to, there is nothing about this tree that needs the huge root hook. Some circling roots, but not too bad. Okay, I'm just going to chop some of that stuff away. Got some roots here that really are kind of going the wrong way. I want all my roots to be coming straight out. You know, this guy's not perfect, but he'll be fine. So that looks pretty good. And the window mesh is perfect. So I'll put it back in there. Fill up the pot with a little bit of soil. And give the guy a little squish down in there. A little bit more soil. Wow, they are really making a lot of noise on that roof. As I'm sure you can hear. I don't like to add too much soil, so it's at least below the lip of the pot. So there we go. There's number one, repotted. Now the aftercare is that these guys are already pretty wet, so, and we're talking about very good chance of rain tomorrow, so I may not even water these guys in. And they're Parrot Beak. They're almost indestructible, except for cold. They do not like to freeze. Now the roots on this guy are not that great, but hey, sometimes you just got to live with what you got. I really like to take my cuttings and make sure that the roots are nice, and this piece of window screen is pretty shabby, so we're going to throw him out of there and get us a new chunk. And the window screen I'm using is ancient itself, so it works for me. So let's see what the roots look like on this guy. I really don't think there's any chance we're ever going to get any roots right in here. Sometimes I take my awl or even my scissors like this, and you just poke holes like that, and then take some rooting hormone. And actually, you know, I have some rooting hormone just sort of sitting there. I need to go get it, which will only be a second. So here we go. Here's some rooting hormone on my finger, and then just dab it into those places that I poked the holes. And, you know, in theory, we'll get some roots there. If it doesn't happen, it's still okay. The first two have had some pretty nice healthy roots, even if this one doesn't have perfect. There's our new window screen. Bang, 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 bang. It almost sounds like the difference between these guys and the other guys that were doing my other neighbor's roof is that these guys are using hammers, and my other neighbors used pneumatic hammer guns, which make a whole lot less noise. Squish him down in there. About like that. And the repotting process always gives me the opportunity to change the aspect of the tree. So if it's leaning too far forward, I can pull it back. If it's leaning too far back, I can pull it forward. So the repotting process is done mainly to rejuvenate the plant. And if you look at the roots on these two guys, the first two, they weren't tremendously root bound, but they root so aggressively that they would be by about the middle of the summer. So it's just as easy to do the repotting now. Who is next? I forget. I don't think it matters. This guy has some weird roots, but I kind of like that sweepy root. And once again, I can end up putting it in the pot a little bit more like that. You notice the pot is angled. This is where it's at now. So I can put it in the pot a little bit more like that. So let's take him out of there. A tree that's really, really root bound fights you to come out of the pot much more than these guys. Oh, look at that. It's got green mesh instead of window screen, which looks like it's going to need to be cut out of there. Now this green plastic mesh, it does degrade. I usually use the white, but green is about the same. It does degrade, but far less than the window screen. I'm thinking to myself, how did that get in there? My guess is the pot probably came with it, and I was like, okay, well, I'll use it. Got a big root right there. This guy here, down here, it's got a big knob. So chop that away, and chop most of the rest of this away. So we've got two pretty big knobs there from this root. And get rid of that root right there. Okay. So put them in the pot about like that. The window mesh, not the window mesh, the green screen. The green screen, it's a green screen. Okay, there we go. Put the screen back in there. And in a perfect world, you would staple that in there with a little bit of wire, but in pots this small, it's just not that big of a deal. Okay, and then give him a new front, like so. And these guys will get some fertilizer once they begin to respond. But not too much, because otherwise they already are so rampant that too much fertilizer will make them even more rampant. And I love John Naka's philosophy on at least finished trees. You have to remember finished trees. He used to say, fertilize to keep your trees healthy, but not too healthy. And of course what he meant by that was, if you put too much fertilizer, then you have a whole bunch of excess growth. Boy, I got stuff in the background. Okay, that guy looks pretty good. I kind of like the new front. I buried it a little bit so that this root here is not so high. Okay. Moving right along. I think this guy was the next one. You know, I was going to wire that guy up. You know what? Nah. I can do that another day. We're in the repotting. Now, this is weird. It almost looks like it's in some kind of... It's bonsai soil, but it has a lot of organic matter in it, too. A lot of crud. You see now, when this crud that's in that soil, spread this out in the sun, let it all dry. All these roots and all that organic matter will sift right out, and you'll just be left with the old soil. So, do we need a new front on this? Maybe a tiny bit. You know, that's the old front. A little bit like that. And let's see what we're up against. We've got the window screen again. And see how that's just so... I must have left a whole bunch of organic matter around the roots. And you know, I don't like that. Not that the tree really cares. But I think what I'm going to do, after I get the window screen out of there, yeah, see how, look at all that organic matter. I don't really know why it's so dirty like that. The window screen is intact enough to be used again. And then I'm just going to put it on pause, and I'm going to go to my bucket of water and just completely remove all this really crud soil. So that didn't take long. There we have basically denuded. And I'm going to give it, I'm still going to give it a little bit of soil on the bottom of the pot, just a touch. And then I'm going to turn him a little more like that. And see, I can bring this guy a little further back. So now he was like this, so now I'm going to take him back a little further. So then the front is not pointing at it. When I had it like this, the front was way too far forward that I was going to wire. But I can just as easily bring the tree like that. Okay. It's interesting, there are no birds today. The roofers have probably scared them off. I actually need a new roof, but the $15,000 is a little bit more than I have right now. Yay. Oh, and also, I don't know if you can see it, but let's pull way up here and get my little pointy thing, which is actually a pair of scissors. See this little green, a little piece of the green? There's one right there, and there's two more right there. Those are actually old fertilizer that sifted out with the granules of soil, and they're pretty much empty, but the little husk still remains. So that's a commercial fertilizer that I use that has a little green. So if you notice the green stuff in some of my videos, in some of the soil, that's what that is. It's basically encapsulated slow release fertilizer that is just still there. It's not that big of a deal. Alright, one more. This guy here. Now when I'm looking at all these pots, the other four are in very, I don't want to say run-of-the-mill, but they are. They're run-of-the-mill, mass-produced, probably some in Japan, perhaps some out of China, but this is a handmade pot. Much nicer, very cool glaze or technique that they used. And I'm going to start by taking off all these roots that have come out of the drain hole. You can tell handmade bonsai pots. Well, first of all, they've got the chop. You see the chop right there? That's the person's sort of signature. And they also have much, much larger drain holes, and they also have wire holes. The vast majority of those mass-produced smaller pots, the other four, none of those have wire holes. So most handmade bonsai potters are also bonsai people. We have a pill bug in there. So they make the provisions for the wire. And I don't like to wire my trees down, and unless it's absolutely necessary, I don't. But anyway, there we go. Another piece of screen. Oh! He's not cooperating. A lot of little knobby roots. Okay, well that was easy. And if that's the front, do I need to modify any of the roots? I don't think so. That one's pointing up a little bit, but when I put it back in the pot, I can push it down like that as I put the soil. I don't think it needs any roots pruned other than what I pruned off to get the mesh out. You can see obviously the wire mesh is still holding on to a lot of roots. And I certainly, even though I reused the wire mesh, I certainly pull all those old roots out of there. If they will come. And once again, wire mesh is perfectly fine. Look at that massive drain hole. I think the world record pot that I have for drain holes is one that was made by Dale Colchoy. And you may not have heard of Dale because he was a Florida guy. And sadly, he passed away a number of years ago. I only have 2 of his pots, but they have world record drain holes. I mean, like crazy. Okay, there we go. Oops, nope, that doesn't belong there. There we go. And a round pot. I say, I joke that a round pot has no front, but there is a front. So you can either have the space between the leg as the front or the leg as the front. Am I even in the camera? So you can have that as the front or that as the front. And I kind of like the space between the leg as the front. So we're going to put him like that. And give him some new soil. With all the little green specks in there. I think he could use a little bit more. Like I said, most older bonsai have a mound, but if you mound up brand new fresh soil like this, the next time you water it all just washes away anyway. So I like the tree to just create the mound by itself. Over time the roots will all fill in and it'll create that mound all by itself. And the same with moss. None of these guys really had that much moss because they're fairly new in those pots. In theory, they probably didn't even need to be root pruned and repotted. Could have gone another year. And once again, know your material. Parrot beak. They're almost indestructible, except for cold. They do not like cold, and freezing will kill them. That's why all these lost their leaves, because it got cold enough for them to say, whoa, something ain't right here. So there we go. So I'm going to end this video with a pile of used bonsai soil. No, let's not do that. So there we go. 5 Shohin and maybe 1 or 2 mame. Usually when it comes to like the size of things, does it really matter? If you enjoy the tree, and I love my little mames, but I'm not really all that much of a stickler on this one is a mame and this one is not, because it's too big. Doesn't really matter. So each of these trees is unique, and yet they're all very similar. And I think all 5 of them could be really nice little trees. They're going to take a lot of work to keep them in bounds because the new growth elongates tremendously. So I will keep you updated. Usually I let these guys grow maybe 2 or 3 inches out and then chop like 90% of that off. Let it grow 2 or 3 inches out again, chop 90% of that off, and that's how you build your pads. And this is pretty much where they're at right now. They have the basic structure, and now it's time to build the tree with the fullness and the ramification. So thanks so much for watching. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you can watch these guys the next time I put a video out. And leave a comment. I think I'm going to enjoy these, and I have 4 more of exactly the same guys, but they're all bigger, but they were all done at the same time, so they will be another video, probably the next video I make. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video when I feature the next 4 Parrot's Beak, all put into bonsai pots at exactly the same time as these guys. So thanks for watching.